Well, good morning. Welcome on a Monday morning. Coach Kentera with you, talking about the wonderful world of sports. Our first show of 2025. Hope everyone had a great holiday. I certainly did, and very excited about being back. Once we get to January 1st, we're getting a little bit closer to spring training, my favorite time of year. And we've got so much baseball to talk about today. And we're going to talk college basketball. We're going to talk a little bit about the college football playoffs. We're going to talk about the NFL wildcard weekend coming up this Saturday, Sunday, and next Monday. So we got a lot to cover. Right off the bat, as we get underway in 2025, I want to thank everyone. We started our podcast back in May. And it's gone very well, and we're going to continue rolling with it. And we certainly appreciate everyone being a part of it. If you haven't subscribed yet, we would certainly appreciate it if you'd subscribe to our channel, like it. And we have our message board on our YouTube page. And if you would write in any questions, comments, thoughts about what's going on in the world of sports, or even on our program. And we'll take those throughout the course of the program as they come in. But we got a lot to cover today. Again, you can follow me on Facebook at John Kentera, and you can follow me on X at Coach Kentera 44. Always enjoy reading all your different comments or questions or, what's going on in the sports world. We got a lot to cover today. We're going to start right with our San Diego Padres. Just before I came on the air, as I always do, I always check last minute to see, what's the latest and greatest. Well, there's a story out there that came down this morning from Alilian Mohammed from the Sporting News. And I'm not going to put legs on this story yet. This time of year, especially after you get through the winter meetings and, you get into the new year, everybody's looking to fortify their roster for the next baseball season. The Padres obviously have a lot of work to do. But this story coming down this morning, I hope it's not true. Even though I think the Padres would be getting some really, really good talented ball players, my favorite ball player on the Padres is Fernando Tatis Jr. But in this article by Mr. Mohammed from the Sporting News, it talked about what about Fernando Tatis Jr. going to the Boston Red Sox for outfielder Wilyer Abreu, who, by the way, this last year won a Gold Glove and hit 15 home runs. Very talented ball player, no doubt about that. And he would be under control until 2030. Also, the Padres would get right-hander Cutter Crawford, good live arm, no question about that. And two of the Boston Red Sox top prospects, infielder Franklin Arias and right-hand pitcher Richard Fitz. Now, we know the Padres are in dire straits financially right now from the standpoint they don't want to spend money. As of right now, they have spent a total of $900,000 this offseason. Well, that's not going to buy you a whole lot. In fact, that's not going to buy you anything except, some, guys on bargain basement contracts that are looking to come to spring training if they make the ball club. You've got some players that are going to obviously make more on what they did a year ago, guys that are arbitration eligible. And the Padres want to go backwards in payroll. And Fernando's got that long-term deal, even though I think his deal, unlike Machado's and Bogart's, is very affordable for what he brings to the table. Now you could say, well, Fernando doesn't play all the time because he's always hurt. Good point. Can't argue that point. Padres would be getting four really talented ball players, no question about it. And you'd have two guys that could fit in the rotation. You'd get a bona fide big-time outfielder to go with Jackson Merrill in the outfield. And you'd have him locked up until 2030. You'd have Jackson Merrill locked up to 2030. And that's without extending him or signing him to a long-term contract either this offseason or next offseason. I don't want to see Fernando go anywhere. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know where this article came from. It just kind of came out of the blue today, but it's reputable. Sporting News. So I got to keep my eye on this one. Now, the next one, and Tom Krasovic last week wrote in the Union Tribune about Xander Bogaerts going to Boston. Now, I've heard that rumor before. I've definitely heard that before. I talked with AJ Preller at our holiday happy hour Christmas party that he attended, and AJ and I talked about Xander Bogaerts playing shortstop. And AJ feels he can play shortstop, and I felt that all along. I'm still kind of scratching my noodle a little bit on why they decided to move him to second base last spring training and move Ha-Seong Kim to short, who, by the way, did not play well, and by the way, is still a free agent. But I thought when Bogaerts went back there towards the end of the year, I thought he played a really nice shortstop. But I also told AJ, and this was me talking, not AJ, I go, if he's going to play there pretty much every day, he got to get in better shape. And then when I read Tom Krasovic's article the other day, it said that Bogaerts has played as much at 220 pounds. I'm going to tell you, at 32 years of age, he can't play shortstop at 220 pounds. Quite frankly, he needs to get down to about 205. And then you're going to say, well, you know what? Maybe his power will suffer. Well, you know what? His power has suffered each of the last 3 years if you look at his numbers. And granted, both years in San Diego, he's been hurt. He's been hurt. This last year, he injured that shoulder and missed, considerable amount of time. So you got to get him back if he comes back. Now, they're talking about him going back to Boston. And you look at Bogaerts' contract, he's still got 9 years left and $229 million. For crying out loud. You got Machado getting his new deal. You got Fernando. You got Bogaerts. You got Cronenworth, whose deal is workable, even though I wouldn't be opposed to trading him. And I think you've heard me say that from time to time. You can't trade all these guys. You got to put out a quality ball club. But I'm going to tell you right now, if the Padres were to trade Fernando, it would be devastating, not to the ball club or to the franchise. It'd be devastating to the fan base of San Diego. This guy is why you go to the ballpark. I'll be honest with you. Bogaerts is a great player. He's been an all-star. He's been a 2-time world champion. Manny Machado's a Hall of Famer. But I'm not going to the ballpark to watch Manny Machado or Xander Bogaerts at this point in time. I'm going to watch Fernando Tatis Jr., and then I'm going to the ballpark to watch Jackson Merrill. The reason I'm going to watch Fernando Tatis Jr. when he's playing is because this guy can do anything. He's a Spider-Man in the outfield, going up the wall, making a great catch. He's got a cannon arm. He can throw with anybody in baseball. When he's healthy, he can run. He can steal bases. He can hit a triple. He can hit an inside the park home run. He can hit a ball 500 feet. This guy can do everything. And that's why I want to go to the ballpark, to see Fernando play. Now, if he were to get traded to Boston, he would wear out that left field wall at Fenway Park. But I think this would be devastating to the Padre fan base if Fernando were to get traded. Now, at some point in time, maybe, 3, 4, 5 years from now, when that contract starts to really elevate and maybe the Padres don't feel that they can pay that kind of money. Maybe the Padres have gone backwards. They haven't developed any players and, they're in third or fourth place in the division like they were for many years. Then maybe you trade Fernando. Maybe Fernando wants to be traded at that point in time. But we got a winning ball club right here. We got a lot of momentum going into this coming year. I could go on and on about Fernando, and I just hope he can stay healthy for an entire year. I've giggled. Going back to his rookie year, remember he missed the last part of his rookie year with that problem with his back? He had like a stress reaction, and that's come up 2 different times. He's had that stress reaction. This past year it came up. And I keep saying, since his rookie year, could you imagine if this guy played not 162 games, but play 150 games? The numbers he could put up, his power numbers, the RBIs that he would drive in, the runs he would score. That's what I'm waiting. I want to see 1 year where he plays 150 games in a Padres uniform, not in a Boston uniform or somebody else's uniform. I want to see him in San Diego. But I think if he were to get traded, I think you'd see a real revolt with Padre fans. Now, I know there's a certain amount of Padre fans that, still remember when Fernando got suspended for the PEDs. I get it. But he's not had a problem since then. and hopefully going forward, that will never rear its ugly head again. But this came down this morning in sporting news. It wasn't something that I sat around and thought, oh, this would be really good on my podcast. I'm not that guy. There are a lot of other guys in this media world that do that kind of stuff. I'm not one of those guys. I never have been, never will be. But that would be devastating. Now, as far as Bogaerts, if he went back to ball, I have no problem with that. And I like Bogaerts. I think all of you know I'm a big fan of Xander Bogaerts. I stick up for him all the time. But he hadn't played well in San Diego. I mean, he's played well at times, but he hasn't been what we expected. Let's put it that way. He's not an awful player, but he's making a lot of money. He got to do more than he's doing right now. But if he does come back, he's got to get down to about 205. And I don't know. I mean, he's a big bone guy. Maybe he ends up at first base at some point in time in his career. But I'd like to see him come in, get in the best shape of your life. Get down to 205, do those agility drills, those stretching drills, more flexibility, and come back, stay healthy, and have a hell of a year in a Padre uniform. I'd love to see that. Now, let's get to the Padre needs, because I got news for you. We're sitting in the same spot now as we were 2 months ago. We need a left fielder. We need a starting catcher. We need a couple of pitchers and probably need some help in the bullpen, but the bullpen right now is the least of my worries for this Padre ball club. Now, Jurickson Profar is still out there. And I've heard maybe he's going to the Yankees, a 2-year deal for, $25 million. Well, I don't know if I want to pay Profar a 2-year deal, $25 million. I mean, $12.5 million a year? I just don't know. I mean, and I like Jurickson, and I realize it's more than just playing. He's a good leader. He's a catalyst on this ball club. He's had his best years in a Padre uniform. I get that. And I like him. I like that smile. I like his enthusiasm, and I like that he irritates the opponents. He's one of those guys that I love. When you play with him, you'll absolutely love him. When you play against him, you hate him. Because he's a pest. He's a nuisance. Real pain in the ass. More than anything else. But I don't know if I want to bring him back at $12.5 million, because I don't know if he can hit 280 again. I don't know if he can hit 20-plus homers again. He can probably hit the 20-plus homers, but probably going to hit 245. Remember, he's a 245 career hitter. He had 280 last year. And the last 3 months kind of was going backwards and didn't have a good postseason. So I don't know where the Padres are going with that. Okay, now catching. Now, here's the latest on the catching thing. Right now, we got Luis Campusano. And, that's our guy as of right now. And we got Brett Sullivan, who's been up and down all around, kind of what you call a 4A player. A nice ball player, a good guy, hardworking guy. I could probably live with him as my backup, but not a guy that's going to have to split time with Campusano. And I don't know if I can live with Campusano as a starting catcher. I mean, he lost the job last year, got hurt again, and ended up in AAA. So I don't know if I want to roll that back, personally. I really don't like the catching situation. And I know we're all waiting and praying for Ethan Salas. I know he had a great Arizona Fall League. That's great. But he also hit 206 in high A ball last year for an entire season. Good catcher, great pop time, great feet behind the plate. Got some power, but he's 18 years of age. Let's give this guy an opportunity to grow. Okay, now the latest, and this was out there, and again, this time of year, you hear all kinds of things. Apparently, there's been talk, and Luis Arraez is involved in a lot of this. I know the Yankees are interested in him. I know the Seattle Mariners are interested in him. He's in the last year of his contract, going to probably get a bump close to $15 million in arbitration. Padres would like to probably not go that direction. They're trying to save money, not spend money. But they got a bunch of guys. I mean, Dylan Cease is going to get a bump. Michael King's going to get a bump. Luis Arraez obviously going to get a bump. All these guys are going into their last year of arbitration eligibility. Now, the story going from Seattle is that Seattle would be in line to move Mitch Garver. Mitch Garver will be 34 years of age, coming off a disastrous year. He hit 172 last year in 367 at-bats. .286 on base percentage, 15 homers, 51 RBIs, and he can catch, and he's a DH. Mitch Garver, once upon a time, was a pretty good player. He had some good years with Minnesota, did a nice job with Texas, then last year ended up with Seattle. I don't think I want to go that direction. A guy coming off a 172 year. I know San Diego gives everybody a new lease on life, and guys come in here, they play relax, and they put up their big numbers. I want to win a championship. I want to win a championship. I don't know about you. Are you just happy to go to the ballpark and have the great ballpark experience? Pay for the beers and pay for the hot dogs and pay for the parking and pay for the tickets, and you just walk around and have a great ballpark experience. I want to win baseball games. That's how I enjoy the baseball season. When my team wins and they get to the playoffs and they do something dynamic. And to this point in my lifetime, since 1969, they've done a hell of a lot more losing than they have winning. And we've got a good nucleus right now. And if I'm going to trade Luis Arraez, I'm going to get more than Mitch Garver and the sixth-ranked prospect Michael Arroyo from Seattle. It's that simple. I want to win now. The window is closing. We blew the window last year. Last year was our year. We had everybody. We had everybody lined up. We had a 2-1 series lead over the Dodgers, and we blew it. Flat out blew it. And now we could run this thing back. We could run this thing back. We'd have everybody back. Okay, except Profar. And, really our catching position, we really didn't get a whole lot out of the catcher. Higashioka did a great job, no question about it. And he signed a nice deal, and congratulations to Kyle. Good guy, hardworking guy. He's a baseball lifer. And good luck with Texas. Going to split time with Jonah Heim there. But if you can get a catcher and you can figure out your left field situation, let's run it back. I know Tanner Scott's not here. And by the way, Tanner Scott right now is sitting in pretty good shape. I mean, he's either got a deal with the Dodgers or we hear Atlanta. Now, somebody else may pop up, but Tanner Scott ain't coming back, and we knew that from the get-go. But we could run this team back for the most part and see where we go. I mean, you could put Arraez at first and Cronenworth at second and Bogarts at short, Manny at third. And then you got your center fielder, right fielder, get a catcher, get a left fielder. Got, 3 good starting pitchers in Cease if you don't trade them, Michael King and Yu Darvish. And you know what? You can find a couple of guys to fill out the rotation. You never know. You never know who might show up at some point in time, and you can fill out the rotation. Even if you got to use 5 or 6 different guys, Matt Waldron, Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito, just to name 3 guys there. There's other guys. I mean, what are we doing with Adrian Morejon? I mean, let's find out if this guy can really pitch, or are we going to hide him in the bullpen again and let him pitch an inning here and there, or 2/3 of an inning? Let's push these guys a little bit. Let's have some expectations on some of these guys. And I would hope that the Padres have talked to some of their bullpen guys, said, hey, you got to get in great shape, man. We may have to extend you. You may have to go more than 1 inning. And you know what? A major league pitcher ought to be able to go more than 1 inning. Get in shape and go more than 1 inning. And take pressure off of the bullpen. It's that simple. But the Padres have a lot of needs. I'm going to tell you this, and everybody's going to sit back and they're going to critique A.J. Preller. Well, you know what? There's nothing to critique A.J. Preller about. The guy was near flawless last year. I mean, there really isn't one move that he made last year that went sideways. The guy did a hell of a job. And now, for the first time in his Padres career, running the show, I think he's handcuffed. I don't really think he can do a whole lot. I mean, I think he can move money, but that's about it. And when you move money, that means you're giving up a really good player for a bunch of guys you're hoping are going to be good players. I think AJ's in tough situation right now. He really is. I mean, Bogarts was not a good sign, but I'm not holding that against AJ. I think there was more to that sign than AJ Preller. I think that was more of a Peter Seidler sign, from what I understand. Okay, it really there was an infatuation with what he had done in Boston and the type of guy. He's a great guy, by the way. But at the end of the day, I think AJ's hands are tied right now. And the only way he is going to try to keep the Padres alive, he's going to have to move a big name player. And that could be Arise, who's a free agent at the end of the year. It's Dylan Cease, who's a free agent at the end of the year. Michael King, I do think they're going to try to get something done with him. Now, if they can't get something done with him, I think they will probably keep him for this year, and then he'll, go out on the free agent market. Man, there's a lot to navigate right now. I don't know where the Padres are at. Okay, I know the Diamondbacks have gotten better this offseason. The Giants have gotten a little bit better. They won 80 games last year. They could probably win more than 80. I know they lost Snell, but they bring in Willie Adames. We'll see where it goes. We know that where the Dodgers are at. Okay, well, let's talk about the Dodgers, for crying out loud. I mean, they're signing unborn babies right now. I mean, this is unbelievable what they're doing. And you know what? It doesn't look like they're slowing down. I mean, we know they're in the running for Roki Sasaki. Now, I could give you a big dissertation on Roki Sasaki today, but I'm not going to bother because he's been in Japan. He's on his way back here pretty quick to the States. Then he's going to bear down and start meeting with some more ball clubs. He's already met apparently with 6. And I haven't been able to confirm, and nobody else has been able to confirm that he's met with the Padres yet. But he will meet with the Padres. But he's met, with the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Giants, I think the Rangers. There's 6 teams he's met with. Cubs, I think, are in there. We're in it. And he said his agent, Joel Wolf, is a good agent, by the way. And I think Joel Wolf's done a good job because Joel Wolf is very private. He doesn't usually talk a whole lot. But, last Monday he came out and said, hey, he's in Japan. This is what we're doing. And, everything's kind of quiet, but he's trying to give everybody an update. I mean, that's a big story where this guy goes. And now we're hearing that he may not sign on January 15th. He's got, till January 23rd to sign? We'll see. But the Dodgers, I mean, with what they did last week, they signed Hyun Kim, the infielder from the Kiwoom Heroes over there in the KBO. Not Hassan Kim, Hyun Kim. Left-hand hitter, won 3 Gold Gloves, 304 career hitter, can run a little bit, can play third, short, second. So I didn't even think they were recruiting him. I didn't even think they were going after him. I thought the Giants were going to get him, or maybe the Padres were going to get him. But man, Dodgers signing everybody. Take a look at the Dodgers offseason. I mean, their offseason is like ridiculous of what they've been able to do and what they continue to try to do. Taking a look offseason, they signed Blake Snell. They signed Michael Conforto. They signed Hyun Kim. They re-signed Teoscar Hernandez. They re-signed Blake Trinan. They extended Tommy Edman. And the rumor's still out there. Now, everything seems to be rumors about Boston. That Boston may be in line to get Nolan Arenado. Now, I mentioned earlier, about Tatis going to Boston in a 5-man deal. Padres would receive 4 players in return for Fernando, or maybe Bogarts would go there. But now we're hearing Nolan Arenado may be interested in going to Boston because of his buddy, the former Colorado Rocky, who hadn't been able to stay healthy in a Boston uniform, Trevor Story. Now, Arenado's due a lot of money. He'd do, $72 million over the next few years? I think he's got 2 years plus an option year. Arenado wants to be a Dodger. And there's been talk out there that maybe the Dodgers they got 1 more year of paying off Chris Taylor, who can't hit with a tennis racket these days. I don't know what happened to that guy, but he just looks lost at the plate. I mean, certainly he needs a tennis racket to put the ball in play. And you would send Gavin Lux, Chris Taylor, and Tony Gonsolin coming off of Tommy John. And maybe if you could get them to take Max Muncy, maybe you trade Max Muncy to the Cardinals. Maybe a 4-for-1 deal. And the Cardinals would take on a little bit of money, but the Dodgers would take on the bulk of Arenado's contract. Arenado wants to come and play in L.A. But I guess maybe his next best spot would be Boston because of his buddy Trevor Story. Not only that, he could wear out that wall in left field. I don't think he wants to come to the Angels. I mean, he grew up in Orange County, went to El Toro High School, had been wanting to be a Dodger forever and ever and ever. Going to be 34 years of age, coming off what you consider a down year. Hit what, 272 with 16 homers, 70 something RBI. Still a good player, still a great defender. But he said if he went to Boston, because they got Rafael Devers, they'd be interested in changing positions, maybe move over to first base, and then the Red Sox would probably trade Tristan Casas or make him the designated hitter. But the Dodgers are like signing everybody. It's amazing what they're doing. But that's what I got. Okay, now again, if you've got any questions or comments, start shooting them at me. And we're going to get into a little college basketball. Aztecs got a pretty damn good team. I don't know where this season's going to go, but to me, this has been a very enjoyable watch. This Aztec team, 9-3 right now, 2-1. They come off a huge win on Saturday up in Boise, 76-68. Tight ball game. Miles Bird continues to play solid basketball, 22 points. Taj DeGorville, who probably didn't even expect to play a whole lot in the game because of foul problems, he had to come in, and he did such a great job. This morning, he was named the Mountain West Conference Freshman of the Week. DeGorville came off the bench, 13 points, 4 of 7 shooting, 4 of 5 on free throws down the stretch. Hell of an effort by a true freshman. Taj DeGorville. Jared Coleman, 9 points, 5 rebounds. Wayne McKinney, the former Coronado and USD star, came off the bench, gave him a big lift, 8 points, 3 rebounds. Aztecs got a good team. They got a bunch of dudes, man. They got some big guys inside. Got 3 guys that are 6'10". So I like the way it's going. They got an interesting week. Wednesday night, they play at 7:30 against the Air Force. Air Force is awful, 3-11, 0-3. And then on Saturday, they got to go to the Pit. And in New Mexico, they won an overtime game the other night. They had no business winning against Nevada. Nevada, Stevie Alford having a real rough time. But Richard Pitino's got a really good team in New Mexico, and they're really tough, we know, down in Albuquerque at the Pit. The problem I have with this game, and I'm looking for, it's a hell of a game. They're tipping off on CBS at 10 a.m., 10 o'clock in the morning. I mean, before your breakfast can even digest, the Aztecs have to tip off. And I know it'll be 11 o'clock over in New Mexico, the hour difference. But that's an early cattle call for the boys from San Diego. And hopefully they're ready to go. They played last weekend against Boise. That game tipped off at 1 o'clock. But 10 o'clock in the morning. And once again, the Aztecs had all kinds of problems getting to Boise with weather. And hopefully they can get out on Friday and get in there and get a good meal and get their meetings, get to bed, and come out getting after it on Saturday morning. That's a really key game, by the way. So a great win for the Aztecs, a place that has not been kind to them the last few years. Okay, UCSD. And I think a lot of you know, I'm real involved with the UCSD basketball program. I do their games on ESPN Plus. Second year I've been doing them, and boy, it's been a lot of fun. I guess it's really fun when your team wins a lot. And I'll be doing the game on Thursday night. I get bumped off the game on Saturday because it's going to be on ESPNU, and they're bringing in their big color analyst for that game. But they went up against Cal State Fullerton on Saturday night, and they ran the Titans off the court 90-51. At one point in time, they led by 50, 87-37. And they've won now 11 straight, second longest winning streak in the country behind number 1 Tennessee. They've won 11 in a row. They're 13-2 and 3-0 in conference. They ended up winning that game 90-51. Aniwa Tate Jones, a player from New Zealand, fantastic player and really a fantastic guy. 24 points, 8 of 8 on free throws, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Hell of a player. Tyler McGuy, who leads the nation. He leads the nation in three-point shots made. 23 points, 4 of 9 the other night on three-pointers and 5 rebounds. They play this week. They play Thursday night against Cal Poly, who's not great, but hey, they took Irvine, one of the top teams, if not the top team in the Big West, along with UCSD, took them to overtime the other night. And then they got beat in the Islands on Saturday night by Hawaii. They come in Thursday night, 7 o'clock, Lion Tree Arena, and then Saturday night, I mean, this is a big game. ESPNU's coming in to do this nationally. Irvine, Russell Turner's UC Irvine Anteaters coming to town to take on UCSD. That game will tip off at 7 o'clock. So, I mean, Eric Holland, basketball coach at UCSD, doing one hell of a job. I mean, what a program he has put together at the Division I level, and they are eligible this year for the NCAA tournament. Okay, USD. I don't know what's going on out there with Steve Lavin, but this program's going nowhere fast. 4-12, 1-2 in the West Coast Conference. They got beat at Oregon State on Saturday, 81-54. And by the way, Oregon State is in the West Coast Conference this year and next year before the new Pac-12 comes in. Oregon State, good team, 12-4, 2-1 in conference. USD, they get an opportunity to go against Gonzaga on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock up in Spokane. Gonzaga, good team, 12-4, 3-0, one of the better teams in America. Then Saturday night, Aztecs will be back home, and they get Randy Bennett and the St. Mary's Gales. Those appear to be 2 losses, so they could be 4-14 very quickly. I don't know what's going on out there. I'm sure NIL plays a part in it because they lost several guys last year to NIL deals. But Steve Lavin's going to have to figure it out. Okay, let's get over to the matchups in college football. I'm one of these guys, the more bowl games, the merrier. I love college football. College football is awesome. And I watched so much college football. I mean, I want to say I didn't watch every bowl game, but there were probably only 3 or 4 bowls I didn't watch at least a little bit of. I love college football, and I watched all the college football playoff games. And now we're down to the Final Four. Thursday night, Capital One Orange Bowl at 4:30. We got number 7 Notre Dame, who eliminated number 2 Georgia 23-10. Going against number 6 Penn State. They took down number 3 Boise State 31-14. Not the biggest James Franklin fan in the world, but Penn State looks pretty good. But I got to go with the Domers. I think Notre Dame wins this football game. They're very, very good. Riley Leonard, their quarterback. I like a great deal. I think Marcus Freeman's done one hell of a job there in South Bend in his 3rd year, doing a great job. Notre Dame will come into the game 13-1. Penn State coming in at 13-2. James Franklin has had the reputation of not being able to win the big game. Well, he's won 2. Beat SMU and took down Boise State. Boise State had a hell of a year. Congratulations to Coach Danielson. By the way, how many of you know that Spencer Danielson is from Solana Beach? He's from my hometown, Solana Beach. Grew up in Solana Beach. I was very proud to know that. And then the other semifinal game is going to be on Friday night at the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic at 4:30. My dad played in the Cotton Bowl once upon a time. 8 o'clock, or I should say 8-seeded Ohio State, who blasted number 1 Oregon 41-21. Man, that game was over before it got started. And number 5, Texas, who defeated Arizona State. That was a hell of a game, 39-31 in double overtime. I got to go with Ohio State. I know the game's being played, down in Texas, but I got to go with Ryan Dave's Ohio State Buckeyes. So the way I see it, you got Notre Dame and Ohio State on Monday night, January 20th, playing for the NCAA National Championship. Okay, I want to get back, and we're going to get some questions here and comments in a minute. We'll start putting those up here momentarily. NFL wildcard. Watched a lot of NFL wildcard matchups, which are going to be matchups this past weekend. Man, I watched that game last night, that Detroit game. Man, they beat up on my buddy Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings. Oof, that was ugly. But NFL playoffs. Now, remember, you got Kansas City in the AFC, number 1 seed. They finished at 15-2. They rolled over yesterday against Denver. And Detroit, the number 1 seed in the NFC. So Saturday at 1:30, the LA Chargers, the 5th seed, going down to take on the Houston Texans, the AFC South champs. Chargers finished 2nd place in the AFC West with an 11-6 record. Houston 10-7. I think I'm just going to take Houston just because it's a home game. I think they probably get the advantage there. I'm still not convinced. I know the Charger defensive numbers look great, but I mean, they didn't really beat anybody. I mean, they beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati won, what, 5 games at the end of the year to finish over 500. They beat Atlanta, who wasn't very good. They beat Denver twice. Denver made the playoffs. Okay, but Chargers beat a bunch of teams that won like 3 and 4 games. It's not like they played a first place schedule. They played a terrible schedule, and we'll see what they can do next year. But let's see what they can do in this playoff game. Also, Saturday, you got a rematch between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. That game's going to be at M&T Bank Stadium at 5 o'clock. Steelers are a disaster. I don't know what they're going to do. Defense doesn't look good. Offense looks worse. They've lost 4 straight. They're going in to take on Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and company, AFC North champs. Pittsburgh, a 6th seed. Baltimore, a 3rd seed. Pittsburgh ended up 10-7. Baltimore, 12-5. They split during the regular season, but these two teams are going in different directions. I got to go with Baltimore in that. And then Sunday, we got a triple header. We got number 7 seed Denver going to Buffalo. That game's at 10 a.m. Sunday at Lincoln Financial at 1:30. You got 7 Green Bay going against 2 Philadelphia. I like Philadelphia at home in that one. And then Sunday night, I think it's going to be a good matchup. At Raymond James Stadium at 5 o'clock, you got the Washington Commanders, who finished 12-5, second place in the NFC East, going against 3 seed Tampa Bay, who won the NFC South, 10-7. Baker Mayfield doing a great job. And man, I'll tell you, I was pulling hard yesterday for Mike Evans. Mike Evans, I've been following since he played at Texas A&M. He was the primary receiver for Johnny Manziel. Remember Johnny Manziel, the Heisman Trophy winner from Texas A&M? Well, I've been following Mike Evans ever since, and he needed 5 yards with under 30 seconds to go. He got 8 yards, 1,003 yards on the year, 11 straight years where he's had over 1,000 yards to tie the great Jerry Rice. And he missed 4 games this year. I mean, he'd go into the Hall of Fame, and he was so excited. The team was so excited. The fans, that was really cool to see. And then Monday night at SoFi Stadium, I think this turns out to be a really good matchup. You got number 5 Minnesota going against 4 seed LA Rams, 2 coaches, I think, that have done a hell of a job. Kevin O'Connell may be the coach of the year in the NFL, going 14-3 with the Vikings, and Sean McVay 10-7 with the Rams. That should be one heck of a matchup. Okay, we got any questions out there? Let's get them up and rolling. But, I want to get back and talk more about the Padres because, man, I'm really concerned about where we're going. Okay, Tyler, I can't believe Padres discussing trading Urias, one of the best hitters on our team. Well, Tyler, they got to get rid of money. That's the problem. They can't keep all these guys. And if you can't keep them past this year, unless you want to make one final roll of the dice and go after it, you might as well get what you can get. But I don't really know what you're going to get for Luis Urias. I mean, are you going to get a couple of top prospects? Are you going to get a guy that can fill in the rotation? I don't know. I mean, I just can't give this guy away because I got to get rid of money. I can't do that. I'd like him to roll the dice one more time. And, I'm not a big believer, hey, you bring back the same ball club because everybody's different. Every year's different. Every guy, might be dealing with a nagging injury. You want to continue to add to your roster. Padres haven't added to the roster yet. There's nothing significant that I've seen. That they've signed some guys to minor league deals. Mike Brousseau, who's a journeyman who spent all last year in the minor leagues. He played well with Tampa once upon a time, but at the end of the day, is he going to be a guy that's going to help you? Maybe coming off the bench, and if he even makes the ball club, I don't know. JB, John, concern for Aztecs. We only have one recruit coming in for 2025, and Tay Simmons. Thoughts on that? Not worried about it. And I'll tell you why. It's called 2 words: transfer portal. I think Brian Dutcher wants to keep people available, and we don't know who's going to leave San Diego State. You may have some of your guys that are going to leave. You want to keep that at least 1 or 2 scholarships available at all times. I'm not worried. Hey, in Brian Dutcher, I trust. He's one coach that's going to find a way to reload. he finds a way to get the job done. And who knows? Reese Waters, I heard the other day, the former USC player who played last year, had been out with a foot injury. He was walking around the other day at Boise without his, little foot splint on, walking boot. I don't know what that means. I'll be honest with you. If Reese Waters is up for it, I bring him back next year. I don't need him this year. I got plenty of guards. I'd like to see Nick Boyd be a little bit more consistent and BJ Davis. BJ Davis is playing like a freshman or sophomore. Okay. He got to get a little more consistent. And Nick Boyd, a guy you'd expect a lot of, he's been a little inconsistent shooting the basketball. When he's on, he's fantastic. But I'm not going to worry a whole lot about Aztec basketball recruiting right now because I think Brian Dutcher, his staff, they've got their finger on the pulse. And who knows? They may know that somebody's going to already transfer in. So don't be too concerned about that, JB. I appreciate that. Elias Diaz to a 1-year deal. Tyler, why not? I think it gives you better what you got. You got experience. He'll be 33 years of age. You put him in there, maybe with Camposano. I'll tell you what I would like. I would like the Padres, and I know I'm probably swimming upstream on this one, but I always like the combo, a right-hand hitting catcher and a left-hand hitting catcher. I don't know if the Padres have that ability or not, but Elias Diaz, I could see that. I think the guys, even though they didn't get a chance to work with him a lot, he's a pretty good receiver. I think he's a good guy, good team guy, and he'll run into one occasionally. He's going to give you a little more offense probably than a guy like Camposano. I don't know where Camposano's career is at this point in time. I don't know what he ended up in winter ball. I know that one time when he hit that home run, he was hitting 210. But winter ball can be a little bit different too. That's not sometimes the easiest. Hey, if you've got a question, type it in. I'll answer it. I started the show about this article that came down early this morning from the Sporting News regarding Fernando Tatis. Possibly, Boston interested in Fernando for a 4-player deal. Padres would get Abreu, that outfielder who won a Gold Glove and hit 15 homers. They'd get Cutter Crawford, right-handed pitcher, and a couple of top prospects from the Boston organization. I said earlier, I go to the ballpark as a fan to see Fernando Tatis Jr. I'd go to the ballpark to watch Luis Arraez swing the bat. He's a very talented guy. And he's coming off a left thumb surgery. He'll be better. He'll have a little more power. The guy gutted it up the last few months of the year. But I don't know. I'm really concerned, and I just don't know if AJ has a whole lot of flexibility. They always talk about payroll flexibility. I don't know how much flexibility AJ has, and I'm still waiting for John Seidler to get signed off by Major League Baseball to where he takes over as the team chairman for Eric Katsenda. Well, we're waiting on that. Tyler, Padres should spend money this year with Hosmer's contract finishing at the end of 2025 season. Yeah. Think about that. Eric Hosmer is doing a podcast, doing a good job. Podcast pretty good. Making $12.5 million this year from the Padres. Wow. Amazing. Isn't that amazing? It's amazing how many bad contracts. And the Padres aren't the only team. I mean, there are a lot of teams. I mean, how would you like to be Pat Riley in Miami right now? They're paying Jimmy Butler $48 million this year, and he's a real pain in the ass, and they had to suspend him for 7 games. I mean, it's unbelievable what goes on these days. And, I'm all for Pat Riley. Pat Riley's going to run that ball club. And, I'm a big believer in the golden rule. He who has the gold rules. And right now, the Padres have to make some business decisions. Hey, you know what? If they got to go backwards for a few years and we end up, finishing in 3rd place, we're all going to be disappointed. We're all going to be heartbroken and go, what happened? We thought we were going to be able to sustain this thing for years and years. But you know what? Padres, they've fired their best shot. They've fired their best shot to this point. Now, maybe you got to take a step or 2 backwards before you can go 3 or 4 steps forward. I don't know. I just know as we sit here on January 6th, 2025, we're getting a little bit closer to spring training. We're a little over a month away. Normally guys start showing up around February 10th. And right now we need a left fielder, we need a starting catcher, we need a couple of pitchers. So we're going to see where that goes. But again, now this week you're going to be a little bit different. Normally we're going to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This week we're going to go Monday and Friday. Okay, Monday and Friday. We got some things we're working on for the John Kentera show. So we're going to take Wednesday off, but we'll be back in on Friday at 10 o'clock. That's our new start time at 10 o'clock. Again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel. And if you would like it, to subscribe doesn't cost a dime. Doesn't cost a dime, folks. Please subscribe. And again, we'll want all your comments, maybe even thoughts that you'd like to see me talk about on the show. I'm always up for that. This show is for you. It's not for me. This show is for you folks out there, and we appreciate you tuning in. And we'll look forward to rejoining you on Friday morning at 10 a.m. And I can tell you this, if there's any late breaking news during the day, early evening, we will get you all the information ASAP. So don't think we're not going to stay on top of it. We're going to stay on top of it. Again, you can follow me on Facebook at John Kentera and on X at Coach Kentera 44. Until Friday morning at 10 a.m., have a great week, everyone. And again, thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.